Another day, another year, and another monster shark film. When I first saw the trailer for The Shallows, I was actually quite amped up for it. These sorts of films I've always kind of enjoyed, especially when they're depicted well, so going into The Shallows I had my fingers crossed of it not being a letdown. I intended to watch this as soon as it released, and that went well, as you can see. So now that I have eventually gotten around to seeing it, what did I think of it? Well, I like it. It was a solid thriller monster movie that played into its strengths. Now, something like this is always going to be compared to the likes of Jaws, which is unfair because Jaws is a legendary film, and I don't think I can name any other monster flick in history that comes close to its heights. Regardless, it is still a shark movie, so it will be compared nonetheless. So, what did The Shallows do well? I found that it tried to isolate the viewer to make us feel a part of the film. The entire movie is filmed in one sole location. It is extremely secluded and allows you to feel like you are actually there. It builds the suspense well, especially in the beginning when we were just waiting for the shark to attack. And it made us wait a good 20 to 25 minutes or so before seeing it for the first time, teasing us time and time again for when it was going to strike. And once it did, Nancy, our main character, was in for a world of a nightmare. Blake Lively plays our lead and does a commendable and believable job. The film may have been marketed in some respect as Blake Lively in a bikini to draw in some viewers, and there are quite a number of shots in the film to prove this point, but it goes far beyond that. You feel her fright when she is first attacked, and her despair at her multiple failed escapes. It was draining for her, demoralising, and those setbacks, if nothing else, only increased her tenacity. She refused to give up. Now, Nancy doesn't have a great deal of dialogue throughout the film, most of it coming at the start and the end, but aside from that, it was just her, the shark, and her little seagull buddy in the ultimate test for survival. Now, I'd just like to say that the film used the shark exceedingly well. Movies like this tend to overdo it, which ends up ruining the damn thing, but not the case here, not for me anyway. The anticipation and build-up to that first attack was done so right, and the imagery of the shark inside the wave is proof that the writers and directors know how to use the shark only when it's most effective. Now, after that initial attack, Nancy was left alone and trapped first on the carcass of a whale and then, for the majority of the film, on a small group of rocks. To make events even better for her, those rocks she took refuge on were on a countdown timer as they only surfaced at a low tide. That meant she didn't have much time. She tried retrieving her board, risky, and it didn't work. She tried calling for help. That didn't work either, and after recording a message for help, she had but one more final option. There was a buoy floating close by. Could she get to it? Touch and go, and that was even with a head start. But, as we know, the tide was rolling in, so the choice was made up for her. She went for it, only to suffer another hiccup with the jellyfish blocking her way. But that hindrance also gave her the time she needed. The shark didn't like to stray too close to them either, and she continued to persist. And with that bit of luck on her side, she was able to mount a fight back. It wasn't easy, but Nancy was able to use the shark's aggressiveness to her advantage. It had battered that boy to the brim of destruction, and just as it was about to go under, Nancy used her smarts to deadly effect as she emerged victorious in her battle for survival. My overall verdict for The Shallows is around about a 7 out of 10. It's a solid movie, a top B movie some would call it, and one of the better shark films I've seen in a while. Key plot elements like the patience with revealing the shark and only using it carefully became a smart choice, and it added to the tense feeling you had waiting for the shark to appear next. As for my highlight of the film though, it is a tough one. There's not a real standout I would say, but if I had to, the first attack and Nancy scrambling away from the whale carcass will get the nod. Now the cast is basically two people here, excluding Sully Steven Seagal of course. Nancy and the kind fellow who dropped her off at the secluded beach. Carlos was his name. We had a couple of surfers in the mix for a short time before they were bitten off for their ignorance. Ridiculous thinking of it, them were insisting that there was no shark despite a clear and in distress Nancy calling out warning them. Yeah, just those guys kinda had it coming. And then there was Nancy's father and little sister who served briefly for the story exposition. Again, for 95% of the film though, it was all about Nancy, and Blake Lively did very well as the lead to hold up the film on her shoulders. Now some of the shots in this film are beautiful. Panning angles of the vast ocean are gorgeous, and for the most part, the special effects are a success. Saying that though, I do have to point out a couple of glaring CGI slow-mo shots which really shouldn't have been there. There were a few too many slow-mo shots for my taste. The only purposeful one was when the shark was hidden within the wave. But why? Why would you slow down a close-up of Blake Lively surfing when you can clearly tell at one point that it definitely isn't her? It jarred me a bit, I have to say, but the rest of it though, no complaints. The shark was decent looking in most of its shots until towards the very end of the film where I guess they were running out of budget, but it was still okay. And Nancy's gash wound in her leg looked nasty on a few close-ups. Her bruising wounds, drying skin and lack of energy had you questioning how much fight did she have left. She had watched multiple people be killed by this great white terror, including that buffoon of a drunk guy. That scene too was a little bit silly, his death was just used for the gore value I think. Now, runtime wise, it's around about the usual hour and a half with these sorts of films. Again, I'd like them to be a bit longer in general, but if you use your time efficiently, it doesn't matter. In any case, the film has its flaws. While never exceptional, The Shallows excels in many areas, and for fans of these types of films, I would definitely give this one a try. So, what did you guys think of The Shallows? Did you enjoy Blake Lively as the lead? And what was your favourite scene in the film? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And as always, thank you very much for watching. Please leave a like, comment and subscribe if you enjoyed the review. And I'll see you on the next one.